Good girl. Hey guys, welcome to our outdoor patio project. If I yelled out the words Jenga, would you immediately recognize that as a favorite pastime board game? Or would you maybe call 911 on me? Either way, we are going to show you how to build your own Jenga-like game for an outdoor patio. Much bigger blocks. It's the mind and skill game that you have this tower of wood blocks where you remove one at a time and try not to topple the tower. It's a fun project. You can do it yourself. We're going to show you how. Let's go get started. So for this part of the project, we needed to figure out what to use for stock. I chose 2x3 stock because it's a little bit lighter and smaller than 2x4 stock. It measures 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches this way, and I got 8-foot long pieces. And I bought more than I needed because oftentimes there are irregularities that I just don't want to deal with, so I'll end up cutting those out. This is an example. I ended up not using this piece. So I need 54 pieces 8.5 inches long. That equates to 18 levels high when you stack them 3x3 perpendicular to each other. I'm going to take you over right now to the miter saw and show you how I set up a repetitive cutting jig. This is a great tool and you can use it for a lot of different projects. It allows you to just cut and not worry about pulling a tape measure out or measuring and marking every single time 54 times. This just lets you set it up once and you make your repetitive cuts. It's a production way of building things and it's a smart way. Let's go to the miter saw and see how we do it. So I need to make these blocks 8.5 inches long. The easiest way to do this is to just lower the blade of your miter saw, butt your tape into the blade and measure 8.5 inches. When you get that mark, I take a block, it's a stop block, and I line it up on that mark. And then I'm just going to put my clamp on it. Line up my mark there. And a screw down into it. That's it. We're ready to make 54 identically sized parts by using the stop block. It's a repetitive cutting jig. Simple to use. You can use it in all kinds of applications. The next step is to cut these and then we'll go on to sanding. The first step in cutting is to ensure that you cut your blocks exactly the same size each and every time. And like I said before, I found it's best done with a miter saw and a stop block, clamped or screwed down so it does not move. All 18 levels are cut, 54 blocks in total. I went through and I came up with about 18 boards that had some real bad imperfections. So I'm just going to go through and just hit the knots and any imperfections with a little bit of wood filler. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not looking for a super high furniture finish here, but just a couple of passes like that. It'll dry shortly and I can just hit it with the sander when I'm done. The next step is to take these to the sanding process. And you could use, I would never advise hand sanding. You could use an oscillating sander like this. You could use a belt sander clamped to a table. I happen to have an oscillating kind of belt sander rigid machine that I'm going to use. And I'm going to sand all 6 sides. I'm going to sand the faces. And remember, I had filled some of these imperfections, so I've got some wood filler in here drying. And I'm going to take special care sanding the end grain and trying to round over the edges. 1, it'll prep it for paint. 2, no splinters. And 3, nice round edges. It'll look real sweet. We're just about done. We're going to round these off, and then the next step is painting. I'm going to show you a trick that I use to paint all of these at the same time so you don't have to have drying marks by placing them down on things. It involves kind of a spinning jig. So that's the next step after sanding. So the sanding is done. That took the longest. All the faces are sanded and all the edges are knocked down. The next step is painting, staining. You can go all one color. You could do nothing. You can have kids paint these. You can decorate their own markers. We're going to just go through the primary colors and paint these 4 or 5 different colors. This is my painting jig. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure before we start setting up for paint is just use a damp cloth and get all the dust off it. The second thing is I ended up only using 8 of the 10 2x4s. So these 2 I'm going to use for my painting jig. They are spaced 1 inch bigger than this block. And then what I do is I just take some 8-penny nails. I nail 1 nail into each end of the block and I'll put them on this jig like this. And what this allows me to do is I can hold the nail and I can just turn and paint any edge I want. The other thing you can do is you can hit the edge with the paintbrush first, put the nail in it second, and then put it on here, and then turn it. What I find is just, you know, that one little hole there is not going to matter too much. You can touch them up later if you have to. But this lets you get all four sides without resting it on something and then having that line or missing that spot. So this is what I call just my painting jig. You can stack probably 20 or 30 of these on an 8-foot length, and it works great. So let's get started and paint. So the painting is all done. It came out great. I love the multiple colors. I also built this storage box, and there's more information on the website in the article, but it stores all 54 parts with a slide out lid here like this. Additionally, you flip it on its side and you can stack the game kind of at chair height. It works great. So now for the fun part. Grab a drink, get out in the sun with your family and friends, and enjoy a great game of Jenga. Don't be that guy with the boring yard games. Take care.